Good afternoon, YouTube America, my fellow friends and bloggers or vloggers or whatever it is you all want to call. Sometimes I vlog from my RV because that's my mobile residence. Other times I vlog from the cab of the POS that I drive for a living, trying to make an honest dollar, even though, in the eyes of the state of Iowa, I'm still considered homeless. I'm still employed, but I'm homeless. And then there's days like today. You know, I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend like I'm a mechanic who knows what the heck I'm doing, because, my friend, I'm far from being a mechanic. That was not my particular forte. I did once briefly, way back in the 80s, attend the Lincoln Technical Institute of Automotive and Diesel Mechanics to be a mechanic. And what I learned, sir, ladies, is I hate working on vehicles. I don't have a patience for it. I don't have the knack. And you know what? If you know people that have a knack, you know that they love it, they're good at it, and they know the tricks. And that's part of it. But another part is actually having an inkling of exactly what it is they're trying to fix. Now, this particular POS is a pumper truck. It's a big tank on the back, has a pump. That's what this thing here is. I've mentioned it before several times. What it does is I go out and I clean out grease traps from restaurants and hotels and what have you, and interceptors, which are basically a really big grease trap that's located outside. I kind of like them much better than the inside ones because all I got to do is pull up, pop a manhole, and start slurping when things work. Now, POS here has had some problems the past week and a half, 2 weeks. It's been down more than it's been up, which has really hit the fat man's wallet. I'm going to be destitute and homeless soon at the rate this thing's going. There was some debate last Sunday about whether or not I was going to continue doing hoods, and I put my foot down. God bless my employers. I love these people. They're good people, but I can't do the hood things no more. I just can't. It's the scheduling. It's not the job. It just never ends. It's always a problem. It's always a bind. Somebody's never showing up. The people who do show up don't want to work. Uh, and there's certain elements of that job I can't do and won't do. I don't climb ladders. I don't get up on roofs. I'm scared of heights. That's an issue, right? So I like this. I actually enjoy this job, except this Mickey Mouse shit right here. Yeah, the boss would be better off putting it in the shop, having somebody who knows what they're doing fix it. And that's what he does after we've thrown a lot of effort and money and hours into trying to MacGyver it into doing what we needed to do. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on here with this thing. I do know that there was a piece of hose about 6 inches long, about this long, and it connects this tank thing over here, which is some sort of retaining reservoir for used oil, and the back of the pump here, an outlet flow thing that I guess the used oil flickers through. Now, we're not talking a lot of oil. I only fill a little reservoir, which is only maybe a quarter of a gallon every 3 or 4 days of heavy use. So it just, and maybe a cup of oil come out of that reservoir at any given time if I pull the valve down here, if that. Right, and so yet it's part of some sort of vacuum system. Maybe, I don't know. I know that I spent all afternoon and all morning the last couple days first getting the piece off, then finding another piece, waiting for the piece to arrive. They had ordered it from Omaha. Got a piece of hose. It was like too big, too thick, too heavy. You couldn't bend it. I couldn't get it back in there if I tried. And even once I did get it on there, I kept breaking clamps. Now, I'm not the most mechanically inclined individual in the world. That's obvious. But, I got a little bit of upper muscle strength in my, I don't know it from the fat guy. The fat guy did some time not long ago, and I mentioned that in some of my other videos, and I was benching 265 on a regular basis. So, there's some stuff there under the fat, friend. Few people made the mistake of thinking that I was just a marshmallow. That's a bad mistake, and it always has been when it comes to me in my lifetime. I've always been a big guy. Might be a fluffy guy, but under that fluffy guy is a big monstrous guy who can break things. And I break a lot of things. That's the sad part. I'm a moose, or a bull in a china cabinet, closet, or a china store, as my father used to call it, because I bumble through things. I break lug nut bolts. I break bands. Yeah, you know, I can't tell you how many of these things here I've broken trying to fix this thing over the last couple of days. There's like 5 or 6 of them laying over here on the workbench. Now, what I get at that is this is I don't know, red green MacGyvering 101. Red green, God bless your soul. God bless duct tape, one of the most important devices that ever come out of NASA. Yeah, folks. This stuff came out was for the space program. Keep that in mind. Somebody else will tell you otherwise, but I know better. I got the conspiracy websites to prove it. Anyway, we put a piece of plastic piping thing in there. The boss got it. Did a second pipe. We put it in a hose. We put it in. Problem is, I had to cut it shorter than I'd like to get it to fit because the only other way I could get it in would have been to dismantle the bolts that hold this big ugly thing here in place. And there's a gearbox back there we just had fixed. I don't know how many hundreds of dollars we spent at the mechanic 5 days ago to get that thing put back together again. Last thing this ham-fisted, not mechanically inclined individual wants to do is start pulling bolts out of this thing and pull it away from where the other thing behind it. Because the thing behind the thing was also a problem 5-6 days ago, which we had to take out, take in. There's a shaft laying over here with a big groove in it that had to be completely machined. That cost almost $400 plus labor, plus the cost that the boss paid to the crackhead nephew. And I'm sorry if that's not PC, but he's a effing crackhead, a crackhead wannabe backyard mechanic who does know his stuff, except the genius forgot how to tighten all the bolts and stuff when he put everything back together again. So the first time I used it, stuff started falling off, bolts went missing, and this is how it ended up in the mechanic's shop at Bascom's. There's a big diesel mechanic truck garage. You know, they're good people. I recommend them highly. If you need work, go to Bascom's. If you're in Polk County, you're in Des Moines, you're in the Midwest, go to Bascom's. They will fix your stuff. They work until 2 a.m. How many garages do you know that stay out until 2 a.m.? You can't go wrong. I had to put the RV in there 2 weeks ago to get the serpentine belt replaced. Hey, 200 to some bucks. I was grateful. And they had it done that day. You know, the fat man didn't have to sleep in his mom's station wagon again that night. I'm telling you, I was grateful. Meanwhile, I got like 4 clamps, a chunk of plastic that I cut out of a jug, and a duct tape. But Jesus, duct tape. Will it work? I don't know. Tune in to our next time because, you know, we'll have to check that out and see. Because tomorrow I went out and I did a job this afternoon, which should have taken 30 minutes to fill this piece. The tank on this POS took almost 2 effing hours. Something's not working. I mean, it's got a vacuum leak, something fierce, and I don't know if it's part of the gearbox. It's not turning properly, or something in here that's not hooked up, or maybe this little gap that's causing a problem. Because I don't know what the heck that's supposed to do. Like I said, it looks like an outflow for used oil, and how it's connected to the vacuum side of this thing, I don't get. But perhaps that's the problem. Hence, I went to a little extra effort here to put the MacGyvering stuff together. Like I said, tools. You know, I got some tools. The truck has some tools. Shop ain't got so many tools. God bless the man who owns this place. He's hired a lot of good people gone bad and a lot of worthless pieces of SOS. And those fellows have at every opportunity ripped this man off. And yet you know, my boss just keeps around hiring people and giving them a chance. How often do you find that in the world, right? It's one of the reasons I guess I'm still sticking through this is even though I've been really tempted several times in the recent past month or so to put in my notice and find other work. And the unemployment level in my hometown here in this vicinity is just over 1.2. I don't know what the national average was 4 or 5 a year or two ago, but the unemployment level here is, if you want a job, you've got a job. If you're working, it's because if anybody here is not working a job in this area, it's because they're lazy SOBs who don't really want to work. It's the truth. The jobs are there. Everywhere I drive, and this truck takes me all over the county, everywhere I go, I see signs, help signs, help wanted signs, and all sorts of jobs. You name it, they're hiring. I mean, tech jobs, truck jobs, driving jobs, dishwashing jobs, grunt jobs, waving I need help signs, jobs. They're all there, my friends. And all I know is bands, frickin' some other kind of weird clamp band gizmo. There's a thing over there that goes on here, feeds it, but I have trouble with it, and we use the big ones so the small one don't work. This is a kit to make a hose clamp. Problem is this, is this a pressure line or not? I don't know. I know that these sort of things aren't designed to hold that on. This might, but once again, we don't have any more of the big ones, and even if we did, I'm not tearing that SOB back apart unless there's no other option. Because my next option, literally, like I said, is to start pulling bolts out of the plate down here that you can't, this big ugly plate down here that this pump sits on. Yank this pump forward, disengage it from that gearbox back there to get to this piece right here, which you can't see because my hand's in the way, hook to that thing right there, that gray thing in the shadows, that gray thing right there in the background. That's the thing covered in this stuff. Will it work? Will it work? I don't know. I do know, and I've mentioned this a few times before, and it's becoming a true fact. I ran a Kickstarter program last month, trying to get a little bit of funding to help get a game system, that I created while I was sitting away. I had nothing but time on my hands and access to a computer and a free printer. I spent better part of a decade. That's 10 years, friends, 10 years. And I don't mean piddling here, piddling there. I averaged 6 to 10 hours a day on this thing for 10 years. I worked at my butt off, and it went through 3 or 4 renditions and upgrades and revisions and over and over and over again. And is there still things that need fixed on it, need worked on it? You betcha. But it's the 99%, 95% as good as I'm going to be able to make it. That's where the kindly folks at Golden Bell Enterprises and their gaming division, Golden Games, comes into play. We signed a contract. I signed a contract yesterday to get this thing published. I, my friend, am that much step closer to being a published author. Yeah. Still has trouble sinking in a little bit because, I spent an awful time working on that thing, and it never envisioned. I did envision repeatedly getting turned down from these companies to get this thing, and eventually happen to take it out and do it myself, and do it through Kindle on Amazon and other digital formats. And one of the reasons I did the Kickstarter was to get the funding to get the legal stuff, like the what do they call it? Oh, the trademarks and the copyright legal jumbo stuff and the INSBNB numbers or whatever. Because you know what? I did my homework. I'm not as dumb as I look. I know. Yeah, the hat don't help. The funky outfit don't help. And I keep my hair cut. Not because I'm going bald. I keep a haircut because it's just easier to maintain with the level of grease and gunk. Look at this. Look at this thing. 100 power washers a week take a week and still would not get the layers that cook off this. And I'm not positive, and most of the guys have worked with this thing over the last 6 months that I've talked to are all in agreement with me. If we were to try to hose all the grease off of it, the thing would probably fall apart. It is what it is. It's not a pretty machine. It's not a pretty industry, but it's very necessary. We like what we do to a certain degree anyway. There's downsides to it. No benefits. Obviously, the hours are dependent on the SOB, the POS actually running. And it runs, but the pump's not running. If the pump's not running, something else is wrong, blah, 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 blah. Which, just peach keen as happens the same week or so when I put my foot down about saying I'm not doing the hood jobs anymore. Because I could pull down 50, 60 hours every week if I want to choke on them damn hoods. And had I been able to stay with the guy that I worked with when I first started working with and just made a team with this guy because he knows his stuff and he's a hard worker and he wants to work, I'd probably still be doing these hood things. Truth be told, the hours are good. But I have other obligations at home. Some of my earlier vlogs deal with the mess that my mother's property was left in after some relatives moved in and basically trashed the place. And my deal with my wife and my mother's health issues and stuff. Plus wanting to get get my Stellar Frontiers game up and running and out there. I also am an aspiring writer as an author. I have 4 manuscripts, 4 written novels in rough draft form Uh, it's a sidebar of Golden Bell Enterprises. They also have what they call Polar Bear Press, which means they produce and produce and sell books, novels. So maybe, especially since these books have tie-ins with the Stellar Frontier game. So every book I can crank out there is a bit more in my pocket, a little bit more of my kids, my grandkids, and that's more important to me than any of this stuff. But hey, thanks for listening. And ask yourself, the heck would you do to fix this thing? You have no idea how to fix this thing.